just intro to learning how to create essentially photographs in Blender. That's the whole point of Blender, is to create realistic things that look lifelike, right? So this is honestly more of a intro to photography class than a Blender class in many ways. On screen are a few helpful links if you want to follow along. First of all is a link to just blender.org. If you guys could download at least Blender version 2.92, that'll allow you to use the next link, which is a link to my blend file that I've created for this. I kind of got rid of a lot of the unnecessary stuff that we don't really need to do. I did that work for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and actually post this in the Twitch chat as well, just so you have it, as well as the Blender link, which it's on slow mode, so give me a sec. While you guys are doing that, I'm just going to kind of introduce myself. Okay, sorry, Twitch is being rude. I'm going to kind of introduce myself. My name is Gomi. I make occasionally Blender renders. You can find them on my FA here. It's just at Gomi Deer. They look like this. Just a few. And I'm more active on Twitter, so you can find me there at Gomi_Deer. And I want to, before we get started, give a huge thank you to Toastador for allowing me to use his Nargacuga model for this. That's what's in that file that I put on Twitch. And just to kind of plug him a little bit, his very good shark model is 30% off right now during Furality, so go get it. Okay. A couple notes to go over. There is a questions chat in the Discord. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. There's a few people in voice chat with me who might be saying stuff, who might be asking questions as well. You're not going to be able to see their screens. I have them off to the side, but it was supposed to be kind of a class, so I wanted to have a little bit of interaction. I do ask that you keep questions that aren't related to this specific project until the end. I'm more than happy to ask, how do I do this? How do I do that at the end? But for now, just kind of keep questions to what we're doing. But I think it's almost 5 minutes. I want to give everybody about 5 minutes to download Blender and to download that file. So with my extra time, I think I'm just going to go over some good resources to use in the future if you guys enjoy this and want to explore Blender more. There's a couple of really fantastic YouTube channels I highly recommend. Blender Guru is probably the most well-known YouTube channel, but there's also somebody named CG Matter who makes some wonderfully hilarious tutorials, and his more long-form YouTube channel, Default Cube. And then also Ian Hubert, who is an absolutely incredible Blender artist who just released his first episode of a new kind of TV series he's making. And with that in mind, I think we are good to start. If you have downloaded my blend file and you have Blender open, this should be the screen you should be able to see. I'm going through everybody right now in Discord and kind of looking at where they're at, and everybody I think is on the same page. And you should see my very special box that I put in here. By the way, navigating is to move around is middle click, and then to move like this is shift click, and then just zooming in and out is scrolling. You should also be able to see everything I'm doing over here in the bottom left of my screen, just to give you kind of a better idea of what's going on. And the point of this very special box is to just teach you guys the 3 most important hotkeys you'll ever need in Blender. The first one is S for scale, which means you can go up and down, up and down, up and down, in and out. The next is G, which is grab, and you can move things around in the viewport. And by the way, I'm canceling all of this by right-clicking. So if you don't want to finish something, if you don't want to place something where you're putting it and you want to go back to the beginning, just right-click and it goes there, right? And then the next one is R for rotate. La, 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 just like that. After that, there's three more hotkeys that are probably the second most important, although some might argue the most important over these. And that's X, Y, and Z for these wonderful axis, green, red, and there's a invisible blue axis that you can see up here for Z. Um, Green is Y, red is X, and or blue is Z. And what that does is say I've grabbed it. I can now hit Z and lock my box on the axis, just like that. Okay. Now that we've done that, the next step, and I'm going to be watching everybody in Discord to kind of get an idea of how quickly we're going, is to import our model. The easiest way to do this is it's included in the package I gave to you guys, the zip file. In the top left, just hit File. Everybody in Discord, yep, just hit File, and then go down to Import, and then FBX. And then navigate to where you downloaded that file. And then just click it and import. Should take maybe a second to get in, and you're good to go. And you have a very, very pink looking Nargacuga, most likely. All right, now that we have him in, we no longer need this very special box I made. So we're going to go ahead and click him. You can either drag or just click and just hit delete, or X. X will also delete it. But then you have to click again once you hit X. Okay. So I went ahead and did a lot of the work for you guys. By the way, if you don't see a pink guy and you see a black model, which I'm seeing at least one person in Discord has, it's because you are in the solid mode, which up in the top right there's 4 little circles. Be on the second to the right one. It's material preview mode, and it should turn your guy pink. You don't want to be in rendered mode, not yet at least. I'm gonna go through everybody in Discord, just see where everybody's at. Cool. All right. So I went ahead and created the materials for this guy, just because there wasn't a whole lot of learning you had to do with that. It's very pretty basic information. So in order to use those, on the right hand side with your Nargacuga selected, you're gonna go down to this red ball. It is the material properties area. It is further down the world. Make sure you have your Nargacuga selected and you are in object mode in the top left. I see. I think who is that I'm watching? Frauleola. There you go. Oh, it looks like you have the bone selected. Make sure you have the actual mesh selected. Yep, there you go. Boom. Okay. Now that we're here, and everybody in Discord, feel free to interrupt me if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions. And I see somebody asking in. Oh wait, nope, that was the wrong chat. Okay, cool. All right. Now that we're at this point,
I'm a little behind. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you were fine. For
Where
real.
am I at?
Okay, so do you see those like kind of like colorful icons in the middle there? At the very bottom, there's a red ball. Just click that.
Okay. Okay, I had the wrong one.
Yep, no, you're good. Did you open this in the blend file I gave you?
Yeah, I used this for this one.
Okay, because it looks like you have the default setup, so you don't have my materials and stuff. Go ahead and reopen the blend file and import the Nargacuga again.
Just
Okay.
close to blend file.
What's up?
No. Helping her a bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Okay.
And then
So.
click Goga Studio. Double click Goga Studio.
And then, yeah, you want to open the...
No, you opened it again. You can close Blender and click the Kuga Studio file in the folder.
You can actually just open it with Blender open. Just double click the Kuga file there. Yep, that one right there. Oh, it should just open with Blender. Oh, okay.
Yes, I guess.
Please, I might have to come back to help you later.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Cool. So now that we're at this stage, everybody should see the material properties over on the right hand side. You should have a pink Kuga, and there's this window at the bottom of Blender that is kind of hidden. And if you grab the top of it, you can drag it up to see the shader editor. Yeah, okay. So in order to make our guy not pink, we need to change our material. On the right-hand side where we have this body.001, fur.001, etc., under that little panel, there's a text box. And to the left of that text box is a black and white ball. We want to click that and change from body.001 to body. And then do the same for fur, fur.001 to fur. And then same for each of these, eye out, and eventually you should have a colored Nargacuga.
Huzzah.
Ooh. I see a bunch of colored Nargacugas. Cool. You want to import the Nargacuga housegun for the FPX file. Sorry, somebody asked in Discord if it was a import or append. Okay, so the next step is, well, oh, it looks like I forgot something. It looks like I forgot to include the normal map, which, if any of you guys that use Unity know, is pretty important for definition and such.
Which material?
On the body material. So on the right-hand side, make sure you've selected the body, and there is a missing normal map. You just have the normal map node. And to add the normal map, all we're going to do, and this is just so you guys understand how to import images and how easy it is open up that file, that zip file that I gave you guys, make sure it's unzipped, and then go to textures. And now my hard drive decided to take a second. There we go. And on you have this normal body.png. And guys, there is no more room in the voice chat. I apologize. I see people asking in Discord. So all you do is grab this normals file and just drag it into the shader editor. Boom, it's there. Now all we need to do is take this color output little node here and plug it into the color input. Plug it into the color input of the normal map. And your Kuga will update, and suddenly there is definition. And just to kind of give you guys an example of what changed, I will take it off. Look, there's no chest, and suddenly there is a chest. Wow.
It's like magic.
It's like magic. Normal maps literally are magic. The only thing is it's looking maybe a little too defined, and that is because normal maps aren't exactly a color file. At least Blender doesn't interpret it that way, or 3D software doesn't interpret it that way. So we need to take this normal body.png texture node or image texture node and just go down to color space, click sRGB, and change it to non-color. And if anybody could, from Furality, could read me the Twitch chat if we have questions, I would appreciate it. So I'm going to now bring this down. We're basically done with that. We're now actually going to go ahead and set up Blender for rendering. Now that we have our Kuga imported. And to do that, we just need to enable a couple of things. At the top, there's this edit menu, like most software has. Click edit and then go down to preferences. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to add-ons. And ignore screencast keys. That's so you guys can see this. So all we need to do is click this search box and type in the word tile and make sure render auto tile size is enabled. That just makes our life easier later for rendering. You'll see kind of what it does when we actually go to render. And then the other thing, which we're not actually going to use, but if you watch any Blender tutorial, they'll tell you to enable Node Wrangler. So just type in Node and enable Node Wrangler. I'm just doing it to get it out of the way because somebody's probably going to be like, why didn't you use Node Wrangler? The only other thing we have to do is go to this key map section here. And this is just so you guys can follow me. You don't have to enable this. This is just for ease of use. Instead of using spacebar action play, which is what its default, I use search. And that's because I'm super cool and don't have a numpad, which is not how you're supposed to use Blender.
Welcome
But
to the club.
I feel that. I don't have a numpad. 10 keyless for life.
Exactly. So just make sure you have search enabled. If you do have a numpad, the only thing we're really going to be needing this for is viewing the camera, and you can do that by hitting 0 on your numpad, but I do it by typing in view camera into the search bar. And we have to do one last thing.
Where can I find that option again?
The spacebar?
For the, like, yeah, that.
So in Blender preferences, it's in the key map section. So there's on the left, there is a key map section. Yeah, I know. I don't have a numpad. It's
Thank you.
crazy. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is tell Blender to use our GPU, which if you play VRChat, you probably have one. If you don't, it's fine. You can use the CPU. It's just going to make your Blender renders take a lot longer. So under the key map section, go down to System, and there's these cycles render devices. It's going to be probably defaulted to none. If you have a non-RTX card, go ahead and use CUDA. And if you have an RTX card, use Optics. And if you have an AMD card, use OpenCL. And now Blender is set up for us to use. We are ready to go, guys. Cool. We are going to go ahead. If everybody has set up their preferences in Discord, which I'm going through, and it looks like everybody is out of the preferences panel. Cool. We are going to create our studio. So all we're going to do is in the viewport, we are going to hit Shift A, go to Mesh, and then create a plane. So now our Nargacuga is standing on just a completely 2D surface like that. And we're going to, with the plane selected, hit S and scale it up. Kind of big. Gives you more room to move the camera around later. And now that we have this, we need to create a actual backdrop using this plane. So in the top left of the viewport, there's this object mode. Click that and go to edit mode.
What did you put for the size for a plane?
It's not too important. The size can be whatever you want. You can resize it later if you'd like. Is everybody in edit mode in Discord? Make sure you have the plane selected before you go into edit mode, just by the way. And I believe this is Fraliel. Make sure that your plane is larger than that. About the size of mine, if not a little bit bigger. which you can do by and you can actually do it in edit mode if you hit A to select all and then S for scale. I think it was Frolio. Oh no, I wasn't watching Frolio. Who was I watching? Sorry. I was watching you, Red. Make sure that your plane is larger than that. Yep. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay, so now that we're in this mode, we're going to learn probably one of the next most important options. Yeah, there is. People are asking in Discord. There is already a collection here that has a scene built into it. Don't worry about that. That's just an example. So with in edit mode with the plane selected, on the top left there's these three options: vertex select, edge select, and face select. And those are going to be next to your edit mode box or selection, right? Your mode selection. Make sure that you click edge select and then click the edge directly behind your Nargacuga. And once you have it selected, hit E. And if your plane is going kind of like back and forth like this, just hit Z to lock it onto the Z axis. And then just drag it up to where you think the height of the camera you're going to be shooting with will see. I'm creating a rather large backdrop here just to make sure I have room to play with my camera later. And once you're there, we're going to go back and click that line we originally clicked, the one on the ground directly behind an Nargacuga. And we're going to hit Control B, which stands for bevel. And we're going to just drag it out about to there. And then it's just a single face, and we need a little bit more than that. So if you scroll up, it will start to create more and more faces. I'm going to make maybe that many, and I'm just going to left click to lock it into place.
Could you go again?
How to bevel? You want to do that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I will undo it. So with this edge selected behind the Nargacuga, just hit Control B and drag it. And hold on, I need to undo more than just that. Whoop. Okay. Just Control B, drag it. Oh, that's why. Drag it and then scroll up to create more faces. And we now have, this is what we would call in the photography world a cyc. And now we're going to go back into object mode. And while we're here, let's right click the backdrop we just created and just click shade smooth, which just makes it so you can't see any of these lines. Cool. Once we're there, let's go ahead and create our camera. To do that, we're in object mode. We are going to hit Shift A, go all the way down to camera, and it spawns it kind of in the ground like this. And in order to bring it up, just G and then Z. And I'm going to go ahead and position it right directly in front of my Nargacuga. So I'm going to hit G and Y to bring it forward. And then in order to get it actually exactly facing him, I'm going to go into the upper right part of my viewport where it says item. It's kind of like a sideways text item. And I'm going to rotate it so that the x-axis is 90 degrees, the y-axis is 0 degrees, and the z-axis is 0 degrees. And just for...
How did you get the camera again?
what's that? How do I create it?
How did you get the camera again?
Yep. Hit Shift A in object mode. Make sure you're in object mode. It looks like you're in edit mode. Yep. Shift A, camera, and then drag it up with GZ, drag it forward with GY, and then actually rotate it to exact angles up here in the item mode. 90, 0, 0 is what you want your rotation to be at. And while we're here and we have the camera selected, I'm gonna hit space and type in just active camera and click set active object as camera. Now comes kind of the start of the photography lesson and kind of showing just how much like photography Blender is, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much. This camera is meant to emulate a real camera. So on the right-hand side, if you have your camera selected, you can go down and choose this green film camera looking icon. And here you have a number of different things, but you have focal length, which emulates exactly what the focal length would be like on a camera. And if you're unfamiliar, a smaller focal length means a wider camera, and a longer focal length means a more zoomed in camera. For now, I'm going to leave mine at the default, which is 50. And the really cool part is that you also have depth of field, which if you click, you'll see suddenly our Nargacuga is very blurry, and that's because it is not focused on anything currently. So we're going to go ahead and create a point to focus on. And yeah, you can, I see some people just clicking on the Kuga, which is fine, you can do that, but I like to be a little more granular and tell the camera exactly where to focus. And to do that, I'm going to, in object mode, just hit Shift
How
A.
do I
Yep.
tell Blender to set this camera as active?
So for me, I just hit space and then set active object as camera.
I don't get that option.
Are you in object mode? You are.
Yes.
Just type active camera. And if not, I will.
Nope.
Huh. You're in object mode. You have the camera selected, right?
Yep.
Do you have a numpad? You said no, right?
Nope.
Okay. I may have to come back to you on that one, if that's okay.
Alright, in the meantime, I'll look for the settings.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Okay. Is everybody else okay? Is everybody caught up to where we're at? You should have an Nargacuga, a backdrop, and a camera.
Yep.
Oh. Next thing I'm going to do is create a point for this camera to focus on. To do that, I'm just going to hit Shift A. This is just the add menu, by the way. I don't think I ever actually said that. So anything you want to add to your scene, you're probably going to be using this. I'm going to go to empty, which is about midway down, and I'm going to click plane axis, which just gives us this very cool looking set of axes. It's with a point in the middle, and that point in the middle is going to be our focus point. So I'm going to move it with GZ down, and then over with GX towards the eye, and then GY and so forth, just to kind of position it where I want it to be. Yeah, that's about right for me. Now the focus will be exactly on his eye. And don't worry too much if things aren't looking exact. This is just our kind of setup, and we're going to be changing some of these settings later, or the position of some of these things later. With that done, what's that?
How did you get that grid?
The axes. In object mode, in your viewport, hit Shift A, go to empty, and then plane axis. Shift A, not A. Oh, or that also works. There you go. And then just G and move it with your different hotkeys. Once we're here, we can go ahead and I'm going to type in view camera in my search bar, and I'm going to click my camera in my hierarchy up in the top, and I'm going to choose my empty to be the focus point. And by the way, to hide these weird things coming out, which are the bones of the model, just go ahead and click the armature in the hierarchy and click the eye tool or the eye button on the right. We are going to use those later, but not yet. And I have a few questions. Yes, Chip, I didn't mention that, but if you want to move an object in, say, just the X and Y axes and not the Z, instead of hitting X or Y, you would hit Shift Z, which says, hey, don't move it in the Z axis, and now you only move it in the X or Y axis. That's a good point. Okay, now that we're here, we can go ahead and light our Kuga. To do that, I'm actually going to do a little bit of organizing up in the top here. I'm gonna, in my hierarchy, right-click, New Collection, and I'm gonna name this Lights. That just kind of gives a separate area for them to be, so things are a little easier to find later. And with that Lights collection selected, I'm gonna hit Shift A, Light, and then I'm going to create a spotlight. And I'm going to take that spotlight I created, and I'll give everybody just a second to make one. And I'm going to hit GZ to drag it just above my Kuga's head. And then you know what? I'll use those hotkeys that I believe it was Chip mentioned. G, Shift Z to only move it in the X and Y. And I'm going to bring it to my Kuga's left, our right, our camera's right. And I'm going to move it just about right there. And all of these we can move later. This is not a final thing. We're just getting kind of an idea of what our picture is going to look like at the end. And once we have our light here, we're going to hit R to rotate it, and then R again to get this weird free rotate thing that is a little bit easier. And by the way, I'm doing this while I have kind of the light over his face because it allows me to kind of just position exactly. And I want the line that's in the middle there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I want that line to be pointing kind of at his eye. It doesn't have to be exact, but close enough. And then we're going to switch to render view for the first time once everybody's there. So I'm going to give everybody a second to get the light in place. And then I'm going to, in the top right, we had those 4 circles I talked about earlier. We're going to choose the one on the far right. And don't worry if it takes a second for this to load for you. This is going to be pretty GPU intensive. Oh, I forgot to switch to cycles, so we're going to do that as well. So in that rendered view, things look a little flat, a little washed out, maybe. So on the right in the properties editor there, there's this render properties icon. At the very top, it looks like the back of a camera. We're going to click that, and we're going to switch from EV to cycles. And make sure that you have the same settings that I do, experimental and GPU compute. This is going to give us a much more realistic renderer at the cost of a pretty big penalty and performance, but we're not in real time. We're not making a game or anything. So if it takes 30 seconds to render an image, then who cares, right? So now that we're here, we have cycles enabled. We have a light on our Nargacuga, and we have this backdrop. I'm going to go back and click my spotlight.
The light is even with the light active, it's still extremely dark.
It will be especially with how far yours is. It's going to be very dark. This is not a powerful light yet. We're about to change that. So with the spot selected, in this properties panel on the right again, we're going to go down to the green light bulb. And we're going to set the power to something a little bit higher. With how close my light is to my Nargacuga, probably going to go to about 100 watts. And suddenly, we have a splash of light on our Kuga. Now that's done, I'm going to go ahead and rename this my key. Because that's what this light would be called in photography. It would be the key light. This is going to be our main light source. And by the way, none of my settings are settings you need to use. Play around with it, do whatever you want. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn up the blend setting here, which essentially just makes the shadows on my Kuga's face a little softer, a little less harsh. And I'm also going to at the same time maybe increase the radius of my light source a little bit, which will make it more diffuse, which will make those shadows even softer again. These are all photography terms, so if you have any questions, if you don't understand what I'm saying, go ahead and ask in the Discord.
Also, everybody should save so they don't crash Blender like mine just did, and
No
now I have
way.
to do everything
Mine
again.
just crashed too.
No way.
I'll be pretty quick though.
Okay, I apologize. Yes, make sure you guys are saving.
Really, guys? You're okay. Okay.
Did yours also crash?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Blender do be like that. It do it do crash occasionally. Now that we've created this first light, we're going to be creating what is called a house skin. I can help you with that in a bit. Don't worry. Once we get to the end here, I'll be able to go back and work through everybody's issues, which we're getting actually pretty close to the end. With this key light selected, we're going to create what's known as the fill light. So with it selected, just hit Shift D, which stands for duplicate. I'm going to move my key exactly along the x-axis to the other side of my Nargacuga. And just because this is the way I'm feeling these lights should be, I'm going to hit GZ, bring it down, and then I'm going to use that same free rotate I used the first time, RR, and point it at my Kuga. In fact, I think I'm going to bring mine just a little in front. And then free rotate again. And wow, very bright boy. Not a lot of dynamic anything going on here. So for this key.002, which I'm going to rename to fill in my hierarchy, I'm going to turn down the watts way down to not even 100. That's still too much. Maybe 30 watts. Boom. Now we have just a little bit of these shadows being filled in by this light, while the key is still giving us most of our depth here. And then we're going to create one final light. This time we're not going to duplicate it. I'm going to hit Shift A, go to light again, create a spotlight, and then drag it GZ up, and then exactly behind my Kuga using GY, and then rotate it using RX to rotate it exactly along the x-axis. And this we are going to name our rim, which stands for rim light. And this one should be pretty powerful. I'm going to start at 250 and see where I need to go from there. Actually, it's already looking good enough. I think maybe turn it down just a little bit, like 225. And I'm also going to change the color, which you can do above the power setting is this white color. If you just click that, you can choose any color you want. You can do blue, pink, whatever. I'm going to do just a very slight off-white yellow to make just a warm light behind my Kuga. Just like that. And this does a number of things for us. It really is going to pop out the Kuga from the background, but we also, Cycles has a concept known as subsurface scattering, which, if you're not familiar with, is the ability for light to actually shine through a model, which is really useful for organic models like this. Consider like when you have a flashlight and you shine it through your hand and you can see the light through your skin. That is what subsurface scattering is. And I already set that up in the material ahead of time, but I can go over that at the end to show you exactly what that is and how it works. And with that done, the only thing left to do is to do our backdrop, is to light our backdrop, make it look not like just a gray kind of piece of crap here, right? So I'm going to select my plane. I'm going to go back to the material properties, which in the properties panel is this red ball again, and I'm going to create a new material. And on the right here, we have all of our material settings. We don't even need to go into the shader editor. I'm going to click base color. And in the promo I made, it was orange. So you'll see that in the Gomi's example setup collection up here. I'm feeling a little cooler. Maybe like a nice, maybe like a purple. Let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. Got like a pinkish purple. You'll probably notice that it is not the exact color that you're going for here, and that is because there is no light falling on it. So it is a very, very dark backdrop. And to fix that, we're going to create a fourth and most likely final light. You can go ahead and add more if you want, but this is going to be the final light for the tutorial. I'm going to create an area light, which is slightly different than the point light. It's going to create a light source where all of the light comes from this entire area rather than just a single point like these lights have. And this one, I moved up with GZ, and I'm going to move back with GY, and I'm going to rotate backwards with RX. And suddenly, it's lit. And I can really kind of play around with this. If you can even, if you wanted to go with a backdrop that's much more neutral color, like a white or an off-white, and then use this light itself to light it if you want. You can do all sorts of fun things on Blender. It's one of the reasons it's so cool. I really like it. I'm gonna make my light back here exactly 40 watts, and we are basically ready to render. Actually, let me go through my list here. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, the only thing we have left to do is pose, but I want to do one quick render, at least on my screen for you guys. If you guys are noticing that rendering is taking a long time on your system, we can go ahead and pause it halfway through the render. It's not a big deal. Before you render, I really recommend leaving cycles view and saving. If Blender crashes, you want to have it saved, and sometimes opening in cycles view, I've noticed that Blender really doesn't like that, and you'll have a really hard time reopening it. So now that I'm in this view, I'm going to go ahead and render. So in the top, there's this render option next to the file and the edit things, and I'm just going to hit render image. And you are going to get a very probably nice looking image. It obviously isn't posed. The camera isn't probably where you want it to be in the end. But for a test render, to me, I think it's incredible that Blender with just 3 lights and a camera can do pretty quickly a really cool, well lit thing. I'm gonna go ahead and close this render tab, and this is the more freeform part of this tutorial. We only have about 15 minutes left, so I'm gonna make this kind of quick. On the in the hierarchy, make sure you have your bones enabled. I disabled them earlier. Click those bones, and then up where we went to edit mode originally, click object mode and go to pose mode. And Rose, I see people on Discord asking. I know that I'm going pretty fast. I do plan on sticking around in both the voice call for everybody that's in here, as well as the Discord chat, and helping people along figure out what they need to do. I'm also planning on asking any, like, hey, how would I do this type of render questions in the Discord chat. Now with the bones selected like this, you're gonna notice that it looks like some are like kind of hidden inside of him. How are you gonna control his body? Stuff like that. And to do the default Blender selection for some reason hides bones. So in the top right, there's these 2 kind of circle looking things intersecting each other. It's the show overlays menu. Click the drop down there, and then just check pose mode at the very bottom of that, and it'll show you all of the bones inside it. And now with that selected, this is the same concept as moving an object. I'm going to hit A to make sure I have all of the bones selected. I'm going to hit R, and I'm going to lock it on the Z-axis so my Kuga turns this direction and only this direction. And I'm going to kind of move him to the right slightly. And now I can go bone by bone, click it and rotate it, click it and rotate it. Just like that. And if I look in my camera, my Kuga is rotating however I want him to. I'm going to let all of you guys figure out how to do that. I'm going to give you about 5-10 minutes. That'll give us to about 8:25. And from there, I'll show you what the final thing looks like. I'm going to personally be working on my original Gomi example setup collection. I'm gonna change the lighting to show you guys what you can maybe do with Blender. I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? I did actually. Just so you guys know, the depth of field on your camera does not have to be as shallow as it was. The cameras in this, let me go back to object mode and click my camera. The cameras in this act like a camera in real life. So you have this depth of field which we enabled earlier, and under that is aperture, which acts exactly like a camera aperture if you've ever used a camera before. So the f-stop, the smaller that number is, the more blurry the the picture will be, and the larger the number, the less blurry the out of focus parts are going to be. And like the larger your depth of field is. And the blades under it change just the way that your out of focus stuff is going to look. This doesn't really matter for our use case since our out of focus thing is just a plain background. But usually if I'm doing this, I'm probably going to keep my blades around 12 and my rotation somewhere. It doesn't really matter. I just play with it until I like the look usually. Maybe 12 and 15 are about good. And the only other thing I think I need to mention is the final rendering step, which I'm going to go over at the very end here. And while everybody is still working on it, I have about 6 minutes to play with some lights on my end. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select hierarchy, throw it under this because I should have put it there in the first place. Boom, turn that off. Turn this on. So this was my, hold on. Oop. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lights I created for my example and just kind of make them pretty dramatic. See what I can do in the next few minutes. Whoop. No, did not mean to do that. Okay. So boom, with just like a few changes on my lights. I wouldn't say this necessarily looks like a great picture that I've created here, but it's miles different than the original feeling that it originally had. Which, let me open that picture up real quick so I can show you guys. So this was what it originally looked like, and now it suddenly looks like this. And I want to go over one thing. It's 8:21. I know everybody's probably still working on posing, changing where their camera is, changing maybe their camera's wow, completely forgot the term for it. Focal length. There you go. And just setting up their scene. But I want to go over a few quick things that'll really make your final render just that much better. And the big thing is that most VRChat Unity models are pretty low poly. They're not designed for renders necessarily, especially considering that oftentimes
We're
renders
first. Are you sure about that?
oftentimes real like movie renders will have millions of polygons. And most VR chat models are supposed to have like a max of 70,000. Keyword there is supposed to. Nobody actually follows that like they should.
All those rules in this world.
Right? So we're gonna go ahead and I already apparently have it set. I forgot to delete it from the blend file. That's fine. There's this if you click the body, which actually it won't be in the one we imported. So let me switch to that one real quick. If you click your, let me turn my lights back on, your body, and you have it selected, and you go to this wrench icon on in the properties panel, it's called modifiers. You can add a subdivision surface modifier. And essentially what this does is it just takes all of the faces and divides them, but it divides them in a way where it kind of like averages their location. I don't know exactly how it works. But generally if you're going to render, you want to turn this on. And I will usually set mine, depending on the model, to 3 or 4. I'm going to set this to 3. And since we did this, the biggest problem with subdivision is that it's going to smooth all of our lines, and we don't necessarily want that, especially for details. So with the body selected, I'm going to go up to object mode and then edit mode. And don't worry if your Nargacuga snaps away from the bones, that's fine. It'll go back when we go to object mode. And click off the body, so you have nothing selected. You should just have these blue lines. Go up to select, and then select sharp edges. And then I'm going to use the search tool just because I don't know what the hotkey is, but I'm going to type in crease, and it looks like it's Control E. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to drag it away from my Kuga, which I should not have done this in rendered view. Oh my gosh, Blender is very upset with me right now. And I'm going to drag it away until all of the lines that we selected turn pink, and I'm just going to click to lock that in. And what this does is it essentially, it actually does kind of change the geometry, but it's not going to be super noticeable on this model, and it's going to make the detail that we have just not disappear when we subdivide. Which is a problem, and I was told specifically to do that by the maker of this model, Twistador himself, because I maybe happened to make a render that didn't have it. So I'm gonna go back to object mode. I'm going to go leave my rendered view, which hopefully you weren't in when we did the edge crease because it might lag you out. And I'm gonna render again, which, if you remember, is
Mike,
render.
are you sure about that?
And I know we only have 5 minutes left. This was a long tutorial, but I do plan on staying afterwards. I won't be on Twitch, but I'll be in the Discord chat answering any questions. You can ask me questions way outside the scope of this, whatever you want to ask me. I feel free to. And I know my pose is not great, but oh well. Also, you can totally see off the edge of the site.
Oh, mine
That's
is
fine.
terrible.
It's a rush thing. There's no way you're making a good render in only an hour.
Oh yeah, and
Usually,
having to do some of the stuff twice. Oh, no
yeah.
posing.
Yep.
Remember what to do first. Yeah.
Yeah, and feel free to use this kind of as a stepping stone for learning. I do plan on making a video that goes over the more in detail the import process, because I know I just gave everybody the materials. The problem is that it's very specific to the model. So some models might have multiple meshes, some might have a single mesh with multiple materials. There's lots of different like things that can happen. So yeah, any questions from you guys? Is there anything that I went too fast? I missed from the voice chat? If not, I will go ahead and read the Twitch stream and the Discord and check out what's up. Yeah, Odo, I I have had a few very, very, very long scene building sessions. I think so. A few of these. Let me go to my thing. So like this one I think was. It took me. I think it was like 6 or 7 hours to set up. And then I have one which I can't show because it's not safe for work, but it's a little more mature. And you can go to my FA if you are 18 plus and you want to see it. That one I clocked it. I think is taking me like 14 hours total. So for the very detailed ones, things like this, these are definitely going to take you longer. But for simple headshots like this, you can create one of these in 2 hours. Even with very little experience. I mean, all of you guys got to this point. At least everybody in Discord. So it's really not that much more to pose it and get your lights exactly like how you want them, create something, and then now you have an icon for VR chat because the VR chat social update just came out. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we only have 2 minutes left. Furality team, is that right?
I'm not
Player.
Furality team, but yes, 2 minutes.
Yes, about that.
Okay, cool. So I will keep answering questions. If you're in Twitch and you have questions for me and I don't get to you, please feel free to join the Furality Discord and ask in the basics of Blender questions chat. Yeah, that's a really good point, Odo. If you do set up a headshot scene, make sure to save it as a preset to go back to if you want to do other models. It's better than starting from scratch every time. And to do that, what I would probably do is just, hey, I have my scene set up. I'd probably just disable my Nargacuga. Whoop, disabled too much. And then I have the scene and I can just import an FBX and my lights are already set up for it. So that's a really good point, Odo. Yeah, I know I went really fast, guys. I'm sorry for that. An hour is not enough time to get fully into Blender, but I hope you guys learned stuff. And I really hope that the reason I'm doing this is I want more people to make Blender renders. I want to see more cool stuff come out of Blender. You don't have to be a modeler to use Blender. I only know how to do very basic hard modeling like this. So I'd really love to see more stuff come out. And I think I'm out of time. So
Thank you, Gomi. That was fantastic. Great
Yeah.
job. Awesome.
Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gomi.
Let me know when I'm offline.